Hi, very good morning. I'm Dr. Janak Patel, MD, General Physician. All my video lectures are mainly for educative purpose. Today we'll be talking on one of the very other interesting molecule, that is incretins and DPP4 inhibitors. This will be very helpful to the interns and the person who are working in ICU or person who are going to do private practice. So these two are the molecules which are very frequently utilized in everyday practice for treatment of type 2 diabetes mellitus. So we'll be talking in detail regarding this. We call incretins analogs or GLP-1 agonist, and we call DPP-4 inhibitors. They are also called as incretin mimetics. Incretin mimetics are GLP-1 agonists, and incretin enhancers are DPP4 inhibitors. So we have got lot number of drugs which are available as GLP-1 agonist, or we call GLP analogs, like extrinide, liraglutide, lixisenatide, albiglutide, dulaglutide, etc. Some of those are short acting, some of those are longer acting. And among DPP4 inhibitor, we have got Sita, Vilda, Sexa, Lina, Anna, Tene, tenaligliptin, alogliptin, then even remogliflozin is SGLT2 inhibitor, sorry. Then Omari, etc. These are called incretin enhancers. So main molecules which are utilized in a DPP4 inhibitor is sitagliptin, vildagliptin, sexagliptin, linagliptin, and tenaligliptin. These are the four common molecules which are very frequently utilized in everyday practice. Out of these, the vildagliptin and tenaligliptin are more frequently because the cost has been reduced remarkably. Hence, they are relatively very cheap. We'll be talking under the heading Introduction, Mechanism of Action, Complications, Indications, Contraindications. Then we'll be comparing incretin with DPP4 versus other oral hypoglycemic agents, and little idea regarding a newer DPP4 and newer incretins. So first let us know what are incretins. Incretins are a group of hormones like GLP and GIP, or we call GLP-1, GIP and VIP. The full name of that is glucagon-like peptide 1, and GIP means glucose dependent insulinotropic polypeptide, and VIP is vasoactive intestinal polypeptide. These are the three incretins material which are released after meals, and it augments glucose dependent insulin secretion. But GLP-1 is most prominent insulotropic incretins, but half-life is 1 to 2 minutes because it is immediately metabolized by DPP4 enzyme, while GIP has got very small effect as far as in type 2 diabetes mellitus is concerned. There is another way of mentioning this incretin is intestinal secretions of insulin. The drugs or hormones which increases the intestinal secretion of insulin was called incretins, and incretins was also described as increased secretion of protein, that is polypeptides like GLP-1 from intestinal mucosa, and that is the way it was being described. Also GIP was described as a gastric inhibitory polypeptide. So these are the different way of explaining these incretins. there are cells which are called L cells, which are present mainly in what we call as terminal ileum and colon, which will secrete GLP-1, while K cells which are present in duodenum, they secrete GIP. And this incretin system is also called as an antero-insular axis. And these are the hormones which takes part in insulin secretion, glucose mediated insulin secretion, and they also helps in protection of cardiovascular protection, neurogenic protection, also renal protection, etc. So as soon as the exogenous glucose comes, means after eating food, as soon as the glucose comes in contact with the GI tract, there is a release of GLP-1 and GIP. GIP is usually of not of much importance, but GLP will stimulate pancreas to release insulin. Insulin level will be increased and glucagon level is inhibited. So glucagon is inhibited, insulin is stimulated. It also suppresses the glucose production from liver. It also stimulates the brain and satiety center is stimulated. So person gets satisfaction. So appetite is reduced, intake of food is reduced, and also it acts on the stomach and delays gastric emptying, by which the absorption of glucose is reduced. Hence it also helps in reduction in glucose level. But GLP-1 is metabolized very rapidly. We have already shown you in your previous slide that half-life is only 1 to 2 minutes. So it is rapidly metabolized by DPP-4 enzyme and it is converted into inactive GLP-1 metabolites. So K cells will convert pro-GIP into GIP, and L cells which are present in ileum and colon, where pro-glucagon is converted into GLP-1, which is 7-37 molecule, and then it is converted into GLP-1 736 molecule. So this will be the action at the level of L cell. Little difference between GLP-1 and GIP. GLP-1 is secreted by L cells of ileum and colon, while GIP is secreted by K cells in duodenum. GLP stimulates the insulin release from beta cells. This also stimulates insulin release from beta cells. GLP-1 has got more action on gastric emptying, means it slows down the gastric emptying, while there is very minimal action of GIP on a gastric emptying. Hence, the action of incretins by GIP is little less. GLP inhibits glucagon secretion, while GIP has got almost no effect as far as glucagon secretion inhibition is concerned. Hence, poor incretin effect. Because it reduces the food intake and so body weight is reduced, which is much more with GLP rather than with GIP. Almost with GIP there is no weight reduction. As far as the beta cell growth and survival is concerned, there is a good effect of GLP-1. So it increases the beta cell mass and growth of beta cell. So beta cell mass is increased, while it is not proved by GIP. And incretin response is preserved in patient with type 2 diabetes mellitus, particularly by GLP-1. Hence, GLP-1 can be given, analogs can be easily given in case of type 2 diabetes mellitus, while as far as GIP is concerned, it is not been proved. So you can see here, as soon as the food enters into the stomach, digested, it comes to duodenum, L cells and K cells are stimulated. As soon as the L cell is stimulated, GLP-1 is released, and that will act on a pancreas, will stimulate the insulin production. So insulin level will increase and you will have immediate action of insulin. While glucagon will be reduced, hence the opposite action of insulin will be reduced and glucose level will not be elevated. As well as its acts on the stomach, slows down the gastric emptying, hence the absorption of the glucose is being reduced. Also, it stimulates the satiety center and patient appetite is satisfied. Intake of food is reduced and it will help in reduction in the appetite and reduction in the body weight. So this will be the entire action of what we call as GLP-1. So as soon as a person takes meal, GIP and GLP is released. This particular will act on pancreas, brain, liver and even peripheral tissue, that is muscle and fat. But it is rapidly inactivated because half-life is only 1 to 2 minutes and it is converted into a metabolites which are inactive metabolites, GLP-1 inactive metabolites. So half-life of GLP-1 is 2 minutes while GIP is 5 minutes. But GIP is not active and it is not so powerful. While GLP-1 is powerful but half-life is short. So from these Gila monsters, a material which was derived was called extenide, which is having incretin-like action. So that is called incretin mimetics, or they are called GLP-1 analogs. So we have got GLP-1 analogs like extenide, liraglutides and others. These are called incretin mimetics or GLP analogs. While the chemical materials or the drugs which inhibits the DPP-4 enzyme, they are called incretin enhancers like vildagliptin, sita, sixa, lina, alo and tenalagliptin. These are the oral drugs which are available. These are injectable forms. And one of the oral drugs in incretin mimetics is semaglutides. So semaglutide is an oral formulation. It is a breakthrough in advancement treatment of type 2 diabetes mellitus. It is still not marketed in India. Initially in type 2 diabetes mellitus, the pathophysiology was insulin deficiency. Then two hormone therapy came, insulin deficiency and glucagon excess, and then triple was added. That was because of decreased incretin effects. So there were, nowadays we see that there's an insulin production is reduced, glucagon production is increased, and there's a decrease incretin effect. All these three hormones, insulin, glucagon and incretins, are responsible for type 2 diabetes mellitus. So there is a decreased production of insulin, there is an increased production of glucagon, and there is a decreased incretin effect. And you can see here this in type 2 diabetes mellitus. This is what we call as response of insulin secretion to intravenous glucose, and this is to oral glucose. And to oral glucose, it is because of what we call as incretin effects. And this is incretin effect in a healthy individual, and this is in type 2. You can clearly see that there is a decreased incretin effect, which can be easily seen. Here there is a reduced incretin effect. You can see the spike, and you can see the spike here. It is definitely reduced. So in a person with type 2 diabetes mellitus, the incretin effect is markedly reduced. The factor which reduces the GLP-1 secretion in type 2 is high BMI, insulin resistance, severe hyperglycemia. There is a slowdown in gastric emptying, long duration and poor control in type 2 diabetes mellitus. So there is decreased production of GLP-1 and there is something called as a washout versus continued treatment, particularly for metformin, which increases the GLP-1 secretion. These are all the factors which are responsible for impaired GLP-1 secretions in type 2 diabetes mellitus. But as far as Indian diabetics are concerned, we are little different from other. In the form, we have got a higher insulin resistance, we have got a strong family history, younger age group, we younger age at the diagnosis, so we insulin production reduces quite early. So the person are detected to be diabetic at quite a younger age. There is very high chance of cardiovascular involvement, and there is an early involvement of cardiovascular system. We are known for eating a high carbohydrate diet, particularly high glycemic index type of diets. We are having more sedentary life, and we are considered as a thin obese individuals. These are all the factors in an Indian diabetic which is little different from other group of people. And we have already discussed this in many times in a control of type 2 diabetes mellitus. Incretins will be acting at the level of pancreas, will increase the secretion of insulin and will decrease the glucagon production. It also acts at the GI tract by reducing the GI tract motility and reduces the glucose absorption. And it also acts at the brain level and satisfies the appetite center. Hence, person appetite is satisfied, intake of food is reduced, and person will have a weight loss. This incretin do not have any action on kidney and on a liver. Mainly on the liver, it increases the glycogenesis, hence the glucose output is reduced. There is some action on fat cells as well as muscle because it increases the uptake of glucose by these two tissue also. So main action on glucose reabsorption at kidney is not affected by incretins, as well as the other effects in liver is not affected by incretins. Now glycemic goal by and large by ADA is less than 7, and by American Cardiology it is less than 6.5. It will depend upon the age, hypoglycemic risk, comorbid condition, disease duration, life expectancy, etc. We have got little modification as far as this HbA1c goal is concerned. We usually maintain the HbA1c goal between 6.5 to 7. Now little detailed description of incretin mimetics, that is we call GLP-1 receptor agonist, or we call incretin mimetics. Two common which are utilized in everyday practice is externide and liraglutide. The trade names are Byetta and Victoza. They activate the GLP-1 receptor and they will increase the production and release of insulin from beta cells of pancreas and inhibits the secretion of glucagon from alpha cell. So insulin secretion is glucose dependent. Glucagon secretion is also glucose dependent. It also acts on the GI tract by slowing down the gastric emptying, and it stimulates the satiety center by which the appetite is satisfied and person intake of food is reduced, and it helps in reduction in weight. So the two major advantage, that is weight reduction is the major advantage, and also it stimulates the beta cell, and by stimulating the beta cell it improves the function as well as it improves the beta cell mass. Hence, as there is an increase in the beta cell mass, there is increased production of insulin. But there are some disadvantage, or we call side effects, like nausea, vomiting, diarrhea is the most common side effects of GLP-1 agonist, or we call incretin mimetics. There are some cases which are being reported of acute pancreatitis, C-cell hyperplasia, particularly medullary thyroid tumors are known by liraglutide. So the person who are having a thyroid disorders, this drug is relatively contraindicated. Another major disadvantage is this is available only in injectable form and the cost is very high. Long-term safety was unknown, but now there are a lot of trials which proves that it is cardio benefit, renal benefit, and as well as central nervous system benefit also. So now only one problem is injectable and cost. Now that injectable part is also being solved partly because now there are oral preparations which is available, is called semaglutide. So we have got two common production, that is externite and liraglutide, which are very commonly utilized. Now this is a simple action which is being shown. As soon as a person eats, GLP-1 is released from what we call as L cell. This particular GLP-1 will act at multiple level. If it starts from say pancreas, it will increase the insulin secretion from beta cell and it will decrease the glucagon secretion from alpha cell, as well as from delta cell somatostatin secretion is also increased. This insulin secretion and glucagon secretion is glucose dependent, as well as because it increases the beta cell mass, it increases the beta cell regeneration, there is neogenesis in beta cell, hence there is the increased production of proinsulin which also increases the insulin secretions, and this is the most potent benefit by GLP-1 analogs, or we call incretin mimetics. It also acts at multiple levels like skeletal muscle where it increases the glucose uptake and also in the fat tissue. It acts at the blood pressure level, blood vessel level where it increases endothelium dependent vasodilatation, which is a beneficial effect by which there is also slight reduction in a blood pressure because of vasodilatation. Peripheral vascular resistance is reduced. At the level of heart, it increases the myocardial contractility, it increases the heart rate, myocardial glucose uptake is increased, hence the energy to the myocardium is increased, and decreases the ischemia induced myocardial damage, and this is what is called as a cardioprotective mechanism. It acts at the level of the brain by which it produces neuroprotection, it increases the neurogenesis, it also increases the memory. So this is beneficial effect, as well as by acting at the level of hypothalamus at the appetite center, it satisfies the appetite, hence intake of food is reduced, and because the intake of food is reduced, the person intake reduction will corresponds to weight loss. So that is a additional benefit effect. In liver, it increases the glycogen storage, that is we call glycogenesis, hence the glucose output from liver is reduced, gastric emptying is reduced, hence absorption of glucose is reduced, so glucose level in blood will be reduced, and because of this there will be little benefit as far as reduction in weight is concerned, and also because of satisfaction of appetite center. At the level of fat cells, it increases the glucose uptake and also increases lipolysis, by which it also helps in reduction in weight. So weight reduction is benefited by effect on the fat cells, by effect on the stomach, by effect on the brain, etc. And at the level of kidney, it produces natriuresis, by which there is a loss of sodium in urine, and hence the blood volume is reduced, and also it will help in slight reduction in blood pressure. These are all beneficial effects. So in general, neuroprotection, cardioprotection, glucose production is reduced from liver, sodium excretion from kidney, lipogenesis. It has got also some effect on osteoblast. These are all multiple effect of GLP-1 or GIP. We call incretins. And only drawback is these two, that is GLP-1 and GIP, are metabolized very rapidly. Half-life is only 2 minutes as far as GLP-1 is concerned, and as far as GIP is concerned, 5 minutes. So it is immediately metabolized by DPP-4 enzyme. And these are all additional benefit as far as what we call as cardioprotection is concerned. On blood vessel, it will produce vasodilatation. It decreases the inflammation, increases the blood flow, smooth muscles are relaxed, plaque stability, endothelial function is improved, blood pressure is lowered, there is a vasodilatation, platelet aggregation is reduced, and total LDL cholesterol is also reduced. As well as it reduces the inflammation, in ischemic injury, it increases the glucose uptake, LV function is increased, heart rate is increased, myocardial contractility is also increased, and these are all the beneficial effect on heart as well as peripheral blood vessel. Indirectly, complete together cardio protection. So in general, if we put together, it stimulates the insulin secretion, it suppresses the glucagon production, it stimulates insulin biosynthesis by increasing the beta cell mass and increasing the pro-insulin level. It slows down the gastric emptying. It satisfies the satiety center and decreases the appetite, by which the weight loss is being increased. There is a reduction in the food intake by appetite reduction. That also helps in weight reduction. As well as we already told you that because it reduces the gastric emptying, the glucose absorption is reduced. That also takes part in weight reduction. And it stimulates the proliferation and suppression of apoptosis in beta cell. Hence the beta cell mass is increased. As beta cell mass is increased, pro-insulin production is increased. And pro-insulin will be finally converted into insulin. All these are beneficial effects. So this is that cardiovascular. We have already shown you that as far as the cardiovascular system is concerned, vasodilatation, cardioprotection, and it improves the cardiovascular risk factors. In kidney, natriuresis hence helps in lowering blood pressure. In liver, it decreases the fat accumulation and hepatic glucose production. Hence, the glucose output is reduced and fat deposition in liver is also reduced. And in a brain, it reduces the appetite and thus provides neuroprotection also. So another benefit as far as GLP analogs is concerned, it improves the lipid profile by reducing the total cholesterol and LDL cholesterol. It reduces the blood pressure. It decreases the hsCRP, that is inflammatory marker. It decreases the BNP because it increases the myocardial contractility. It improves the endothelial dysfunctions. So there is an improvement in endothelial function, and it reduces the infarct size also. These are all indirectly reduces the cardiovascular risk factors. Hence, it is cardioprotective. So there are a lot of advantages. High glycemic efficacy. No dose adjustment required mainly if the GFR is marginally reduced. It promotes weight loss. It can reduce HbA1c right from 0.5 to 1.5. It also reduces the cardiovascular risk factor. Liraglutide is better than semaglutide, and it is better than extenide. That is, there is atherosclerotic cardiovascular benefit are there, and renal benefits are also more with liraglutide. There is low risk of hypoglycemia. There is long-acting effects, and you don't require a specific timings. And now there are injections which are available which you have to give weekly. So number of pricks are reduced. The only disadvantage of weekly injection is the reduction in the weight is little less as compared to person in whom we give daily. Now there are disadvantage. Injections are available as far as liraglutide and extenide is concerned. As far as semaglutide is concerned, it is an oral preparation. So there is now one benefit which will be given by this semaglutide, that is it will be an oral preparation, so disadvantage of injectable will almost go, but the cost factor is still that it is expensive. So the previous disadvantage that it was only available as injection has been partially removed by oral preparation like semaglutide. But as far as expensive part is concerned, that is not yet been tackled. In near future, as the cost will come down, it will be a wonderful molecule and wonderful drugs for type 2 diabetes mellitus. The another disadvantage is GI side effects like nausea, vomiting and diarrhea. That also some other time will be overcoming that side effect also. So these are all the different types of preparations which are available. We label that as a GLP receptor agonist, GLP-1 receptor agonist, or also called as incretin mimetics. And the commonest which are utilized is exenatide, which you have to give twice a daily, and it is called as a Byetta. Liraglutide is another one, which is Victoza. And now in a liraglutide, there are extended preparations which are available, which you have to give once a week. And there are dulaglutide, extenide ER, they are once a week. While semaglutide, which is an oral preparation, which you have to give daily, that is available as Ozempic. So we have got semaglutide, extenide, lixitinide, liraglutide, dulaglutide, etc. These are all different types of preparations which are available. They are available as short acting and they are available as long acting. And long acting preparations are once a daily preparation as well as once a week. This dulaglutide and extenide ER are once a week preparations. So that additional advantage. Only disadvantage of a short acting which you give twice a day, they are better against postprandial hyperglycemia rather than fasting, while long acting will be acting at both level, fasting level as well as HbA1c level, and this is an additional advantage of long acting, that is extenide ER or dulaglutide. These are the additional advantage. Now GLP-1, and if you compare GLP-1 extenide, which is a short acting, so if GLP-1 which is secreted by L cell of ileum and colon, the main disadvantage, it is rapidly metabolized by DPP-4 enzyme and hence it is a very short acting. The half-life is only 2 minutes, while extenide is acting for a longer period, and initially you have to give twice a day, but there are preparations which are called extenide. You can see here extenide ER, extended release, those you have to give once in a week. So that will be the advantage. Otherwise there is no other additional advantage of extenide over GLP-1, because this extenide is resistant to DPP-4 enzyme, so this will directly act as a GLP-1 and there will be prolonged action. That is the main advantage. This is a little comparison between short acting GLP-1 and long acting GLP-1, that is albiglutide, dulaglutide, extenide, LAR and liraglutide. These are the which are very long acting, means they can act from right from 12 hours, so you have to give BID, or weekly. This extended LAR and dulaglutide are weekly, while these are has to be given twice a day because half-life is only 2 to 6 hours. So just otherwise there is not much amount of difference between the two. Being a long acting, the weight reduction is more as compared to short acting GLP-1 agonist. So that is one additional advantage. Otherwise almost it remains same. So externite has to be given BID, while externite ER, they are long acting. Liraglutide has to be given once daily, and this has to be given once weekly. The weight reduction is almost same with all, but it is little more with short acting rather than long acting. So right from 1 kg up to 6 kg. Here it is 4 kg, but right up to 5 to 6 kg you can have a weight reduction. And A1C reduction is more with longer acting as compared to short acting. So that is an additional. Blood pressure, there is all the three remain same. So slight reduction in systolic blood pressure. Adverse event almost is same with all. That is nausea, vomiting and diarrhea. Acute pancreatitis is not very common. As far as dose is concerned, externite, if GFR is less than 30, it is contraindicated. While liraglutide, use with caution if GFR is reduced. So no dose modification if the GFR is between more than 50. So liraglutide can be still utilized with decreased GFR, but always be cautious and watch for the side effects. As far as the age is concerned, in elderly age, no effect of age on a safety as far as this is concerned. So you have to use with caution in an elderly, while there is no effect of age on safety or effectiveness. So hence this liraglutide you can use even in an elderly individual. As far as pregnancy is concerned, both are category C. So you have to use with caution in pregnancy. In a lactating, again, you have to decide. By and large, it is discontinued. It is discontinued. So you have to discontinue during lactation. So always keep it in mind. So externite will be contraindicated if the GFR is less than 30, while liraglutide you have to use with caution. That will be the additional advantage of liraglutide. As far as liver is concerned, no hepatic dose adjustment is necessary. Renal function, we have already told you that if the GFR reduces, you might have to adjust the dose, particularly in externite. Less than 30, not recommended. This is also lexatinide, or we call liraglutide. If GFR is markedly reduced, less than 15, it is not recommended. And always before treatment, before starting a drug, always check blood sugar and HbA1c level. It can be used as monotherapy or you can combine with other oral hypoglycemic agents. Definitely there will be weight reduction. As far as complication with GLP-1 receptor agonist, or we call incretin mimetics, headache, anti-liraglutide antibody formation, upper respiratory tract, urinary tract infection, dizziness, sinusitis, tachycardia, diabetic retinopathy may be worsened, acute pancreatitis and GI side effects. Among GI side effects, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea and constipation are the most common. We have already mentioned regarding the antibody formation, hence the effect will be reduced. Hypoglycemia is not very common complication. Weight loss is common, but sometimes weight reduction may be more. and at the site of injection you can have reaction. So there are certain disadvantages which are mentioned like chills, nasopharyngitis, meniscus lesion, nasal congestion, contact dermatitis, osteoarthritis and tremors. These are the common adverse side effects which are being also mentioned. So these are good number of side effects, and also person can have a gallbladder disease. So you have to watch for all this. Out of this, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea and constipation, these are the common GI side effects. Other common side effects is acute pancreatitis. You have to keep a watch. And diabetic retinopathy may worsen. Occasionally tachycardia. But upper respiratory tract, urinary tract, dizziness, sinusitis are not very common side effects. So warning is always given that person will have a high risk of thyroid C cell carcinoma. So the person who is having strong family history should not be given. So in a family, if there is a history of medullary thyroid carcinoma or multiple endocrine adenomatosis, we call MAN2. So in those particular group of people, this is contraindicated. Pancreatitis is also one of the major side effects. So always keep a watch. And we have told you that GI side effects like nausea, vomiting, etc. are also common. At the local site of injection, abscess, cellulitis, necrosis can occur with some of the injections. Ozempic can increase the complication of diabetic retinopathy, that is we call semaglutide, and there are little increased cardiovascular effect like tachycardia, first degree AV block and PR prolongation with Trulicity, that is one of the GLP-1 receptor agonist. So you have to keep a watch. So some of the side effects which we have already mentioned, they are nearly same for almost all. That is GI side effects are common with almost all. So always keep in watch for that. And as far as liraglutide is concerned, liraglutide antibody formation will reduce the effect of liraglutide. So that should be kept in mind. While treating with GLP-1 receptor agonist, always keep a watch on HbA1c, renal function, liver function by INR, and look for symptom signs of pancreatitis. And calcitonin level for finding out medullary thyroid carcinoma. This should be in your back of your mind. While giving GLP-1 receptor agonist, all this receptor agonists are given subcutaneous, mainly in upper leg, that is thigh area or back of the upper arm, and always go on rotating the injection sites. This has got no relation with food, but by and large it is given within 60 minutes of meal. The most common side effects will include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, headaches, etc. Can produce pancreatitis, so you have to keep a watch. Semaglutide is an oral preparation which is specially prepared where, because of the acidic pH, this particular tablet will release semaglutide, which will be absorbed. Transcellular absorption will take place, and this particular, it is a specialized preparation. It is called salcaprotosate sodium molecule, and then that is being absorbed, and now you get the effect of what we call as a semaglutide, and then you get that this will be acting as absorbent enhancer. This particular molecule will increase the absorption of semaglutide. So advantage is oral route, highly efficacious, potent. It also helps in glycemic control as well as weight reduction and HbA1c reduction. Only disadvantage, again like any incretin mimetics, nausea, vomiting, risk of pancreatitis, increased risk of retinopathy, and kidney injury. It is not prescribed in a case of medullary thyroid carcinoma. So you have to keep a watch on that. By and large, there are three preparations which are available: 3 milligram, 7 milligram, and 14 milligram. You can take 30 minutes before breakfast. The tablets should not be divided and taken, and never combined with injectable GLP-1 agonist. Do not combine with that, or do not combine with DPP-4 inhibitor. And when you start this particular molecule, you will require to reduce the dose of insulin and sulfonylurea. And even before you start, reduce sulfonylurea dose and also insulin dose. And increase in the dose should be done after 4 weeks. So initially when you start with 3, after a gap and checking HbA1c and blood sugar level, then only increase the dose to 7. Maximum is 14 milligram. And if you skip the day, if you forget to take, this particular tablets, or what we call as, if you forget to take other medicines. So it is available as Ozempic, and anytime if you want to change over from injectable to oral, you will have to wait for 1 week. But if you want to change from oral to injectable, you can straightforward start on the next day with injectable. So easily change over from oral to injectable. But a person who has taken a long acting liraglutide, then you will have to start with oral after waiting for 1 week period, because the effect will be there for 7 days. So start the injection on the next day after you stop the oral tablets. But if you want to change over, you will have to wait for 1 week. So change injection location site every week, because some of the drugs are weekly. So when to prescribe? All type 2 diabetes can be given, irrespective of age, gender, race, BMI, duration of diabetes, degree of hyperglycemia, and comorbid conditions like hepatic, renal, and most of the complications. Almost it is relatively safe. Or it can be also combined with other oral hypoglycemic agents, and you can also combine with insulin. When not to prescribe? In type 1 diabetes, because it will increase the chances of diabetic ketoacidosis, particularly we call euglycemic diabetic ketoacidosis. Or if person is already having a ketoacidosis, it should be inhibited or it should be stopped. During pregnancy, during lactation, if person has got history of pancreatitis, if GFR is less than 30, it should be avoided. If the person has got severe renal failure, linagliptin and tenalagliptin can be given. If there is a severe hepatic failure, again it is contraindicated. And if there is a hypersensitivity at the local site in the form of cellulitis, etc., it should be avoided. If there is a strong family history of medullary carcinoma, or person is having multiple endocrine neoplasia type 2, should be avoided. And if person is having severe gastroparesis, all this becomes contraindication for GLP-1 receptor agonist. Dulaglutide is a long-acting. You have got 0.75, 1.5, 3 and 4.5 milligram. This is available as Trulicity. You have to increase the dose after 4 weeks, not before that. You have to give every week, means same day of each week, say on every Monday or every Sunday, with or without food. And when you start that, you have to reduce the dose of insulin. because requirement of insulin will reduce. And if you are changing over, that should be minimum 72 hours between the change of insulin. You will have to minimum. This pens which are available, you have to keep a watch on loud sound when you press the button, and when you press that button, you get a click sound. Hold the button for a second, and then again you will get a second click, and after hearing the second click only, you should remove the needle along with the pen. So this is very important. Now we are going to compare incretin mimetics with incretin enhancer. There is a difference. So we have to keep. This is injectable form, this is oral form, this is more powerful, this is less powerful. So you have to. And now we have got an oral preparation, also semaglutide in incretin mimetics. These are all the available, and this is the oral preparation which is available, which is Olympic. Little difference between GLP-1 agonist, or we call as mimetics enhancer. This is injectable, this is oral. Now only one preparation which is available here. This is once a daily, now even once a weekly are available, while DPP-4 is once a daily or twice a daily as in case of a vildagliptin. Concentration of this GLP-1 will be very high, so it will give much more effect as compared to DPP-4, because here it will be a physiological effect, while this will be pharmacological effect, depends upon how much dose you are giving. You will have an effect of GLP-1 only main because it is a GLP-1 agonist, while here you will have an effect of GLP-1 as well as GIP. Insulin secretion is much more increased in GLP-1, while this is slightly elevated. Glucagon secretions will be reduced in both. Gastric emptying is inhibited more with GLP-1 rather than DPP-4. So HbA1c reduction is much more in case of GLP-1, right up to 1.6, while in case of DPP-4 maximum is 0.8. Weight loss is much more in case of GLP-1, while this is called weight neutral. Blood pressure will be also reduced by liraglutide because of natriuretic effect, while DPP-4 will not have much effect as far as natriuresis is concerned. Beta cell production and beta cell mass increase will be much more with GLP-1 rather than with DPP-4. There is increase in the beta cell, but much more with GLP-1. Nausea vomiting is more with GLP-1, and it is relatively less with DPP-4 inhibitor. So only one little advantage as far as GI tract side effects are concerned. Otherwise, GLP-1 is more powerful as compared to DPP-4. So already we have told you that GLP-1 can reduce up to 1.6. Here it is almost 2, while the reduction here is 0.8 to 0.9. So that is the advantage of GLP-1 receptor agonist. And even weight reduction is more because effect on the satiety center is much more by GLP-1 as compared to DPP-4 inhibitors. So weight reduction is much more, while this is weight neutral. Hypoglycemia is low in both. Nausea vomiting is much more in case of GLP-1 rather than DPP-4. This is injectable form, this is oral form. Now we have got oral available also in case of GLP-1 receptor. Liraglutide, some of the preparations are once a weekly, while this has to be given every day. This has to be given every day. So once a daily you will have to give DPP-4 inhibitor, while this extended plain preparation will be BID. You have got the preparations which is once a weekly also available as far as extended is concerned, and liraglutide has to be given once a daily, and you have got even extended preparations of liraglutide available. DPP-4 inhibitors action is same, but by inhibiting the DPP-4 enzyme, there is more GLP-1 available. It is not converted into inactive form, and that will be having a physiological effect on pancreas, brain, liver, etc. So it is a increased physiological effect because of GLP-1 remains in blood for a longer period. While when you give GLP-1 receptor agonist, it is a direct replacement of GLP-1 which will be acting for a very long period, right from 12 hours to weekly. Hence, they are better. They will have a pharmacological effects. This slide I have already shown you before. So this effect remains same as GLP-1 receptor agonist. So there is increase in fasting and postprandial GLP-1 level. There is a reduction in a fasting and postprandial glycemia. It improves the beta cell function. It inhibits the glucagon secretion. It increases the insulin sensitivity. It reduces postprandial lipemia. There is no effect on gastric emptying or body weight, but it is definitely weight neutral. There is a reduction in HbA1c right from 0.8 to up to 1. It is safe and tolerable in short term. In renal impairment, you will have to decrease the dose except linaglutide and 10-L-gliptin. And also there is a little amount of cardiovascular safety. So these are all beneficial effects. Reduces glucose, reduces inflammation, reduces oxidative stress, reduces endothelial dysfunction, reduction in atherogenicity and cardiovascular complication. Postprandial lipidemia is reduced, blood pressure is reduced, little weight neutral, may not reduce the body weight much more, but still it is a beneficial effect. So all put together, there is cardiovascular safety. So DPP-4 and GLP-1, we have already mentioned that advantage of GLP-1 is weight reduction is much more. Also, it is powerful. You can give once a weekly. Another advantage. Only disadvantage is it is injectable form. It is contraindicated if GFR is less than 30. GI side effects are much more, like nausea, vomiting, etc. While in a DPP-4, little less reduction in HbA1c. Only linaglutide can be utilized if GFR is reduced. Otherwise, there are not much amount of contraindication as far as DPP-4 inhibitor is concerned. So, regarding side effect is concerned, DPP-4 has got less side effect as compared to GLP-1. And if you see here, as far as dose adjustment is concerned, DPP-4 linaglutide you can easily use even with a decreased GFR, while GLP-1 receptor agonist, if the GFR is reduced, you have to stop, contraindicated. Yes, some of the common side effects like headache, nasopharyngitis, upper respiratory tract infection, acute pancreatitis, little elevated liver enzyme, joint pain, myalgia. It can increase the inflammatory bowel disease, etc. are common with DPP-4 inhibitors. So upper respiratory tract, nasopharyngitis, those are quite common. When the risk of hypoglycemia is high, yes, usually we prefer DPP-4 inhibitors. So even in the person if he is taking erratic meals, physical activity, erratic jobs, renal impairment, hepatic impairment, little amount of gastroparesis, etc., you can use DPP-4 inhibitor. Whenever there is a risk of hypoglycemia in all this group of people, you can use gliptins. Also, when the weight loss or neutrality is important, like obesity, metabolic syndrome, person who is having xanthoma or xanthelasma, arterial wall is thickened, there are markers of metabolic syndrome, hypertension, dyslipidemia, this will be one of the drug of choice, that is GLP-1 or DPP-4 inhibitor. Also for cardiovascular safety, it will be a drug of choice. Whenever the other drug do not work, you can utilize this along with other. You can combine with other. So secondary failure in sulfonylurea or metformin, DPP-4 will be a choice. Contraindication, mainly we have mentioned pancreatitis, elevated liver enzymes, CKD. And now if you compare the all different DPP-4, linagliptin, you don't require a dose adjustment if there is GFR reduction even less than 30. While sitagliptin, you will have to cut down the dose, vildagliptin, saxagliptin, etc., you will have to cut down the dose. So this is one major difference between all the different DPP-4 inhibitors. So linagliptin and tenalagliptin, you will have to, means all these four drugs, vilda, sita, saxa and alo, their excretion by renal will reduce the use in CKD. Vildagliptin half-life is short, hence has to be given BD. But nowadays the preparations are available, sustained preparations, sustained release preparations are available, which you can give OD, while all other preparations are OD preparation because half-life is longer. Among those, tenalagliptin half-life is much longer, and another is sitagliptin. While there is a little advantage as far as tenalagliptin is concerned, it has got both excretion, renal as well as hepatic. So you can have a little advantage over that. And linagliptin has got mainly biliary excretion rather than renal. So hence you don't require much amount of a dose adjustment in a case of a CKD. So same thing is shown here, that linagliptin you don't have to adjust in case of, we call as a renal toxicity or in CKD. So linagliptin has got all advantage, while vildagliptin, you can see that there is only advantage of no dose adjustment based on drug to drug interaction, and in case of no decrease, no report of decrease in renal function, so there is no renal toxicity as far as vilda is concerned, while lina is having advantage in all these factors. Yes, by and large, now all oral preparations which are there in DPP-4, they are all once a daily preparations available. They can reduce right from 0.8 to 0.1, weight neutral, reduction in systolic blood pressure slightly. Lipid profile, there's a little improvement in lipid profile, particularly with triglycerides and LDL. As far as adverse effect is concerned, hypoglycemia is almost very less chance. Hypersensitivity is relatively again less. Acute pancreatitis is also relatively less. GI side effects are also relatively less. And we have already mentioned that lina does not require the dose adjustment, while you will have to adjust the dose of sita, saxa, alo as well as vildagliptin. You will have to adjust the dose. And during pregnancy, you can continue with DPP-4 inhibitors because it is in category 2. But during lactation, yes, question mark. Summary as far as tenalagliptin is concerned, It is one of the novel DPP-4 inhibitor. It can reduce up to 0.9, can be used as a dual therapy or a triple therapy, occasionally even as a monotherapy, less amount of side effects, weight neutral. These are all the advantages. And you can also use with a decreased GFR. Almost this particular group of drugs, what we call GLP-1 receptor agonist and DPP-4 inhibitors, less chance of hypoglycemia, no hepatotoxicity, cardiovascular safety has been proven, lipid profile improvement is good, weight loss is there, beta cell is preserved. Only disadvantage is safety during pregnancy is not there, and during lactation period is also not there, so you will have to avoid during that period. And some of the drugs cannot be utilized during CKD where GFR is reduced. Only linagliptin and tenalagliptin can be utilized in a CKD where the GFR is less than 30. By and large, there is not much amount of drug interaction, and you can combine DPP-4 or GLP-1 receptor agonist with majority, except you should not combine DPP-4 with GLP-1 receptor agonist. You should not have that combination. So this is almost covering up all the safety profile. Cardio safety. So after insulin, this is one of the drug of choice. So at last we have got some choice other than this person. So atherosclerotic safety, so cardiovascular safety, can be used in heart failure, can be used in CKD also. Up to GFR 30, less than 30, you will have to stop except linagliptin. Hypoglycemic episodes are much less as far as DPP-4 and GLP-1 is concerned. And also maximum advantage of weight loss in GLP-1 and weight neutral as far as DPP-4 inhibitor is concerned. And cost wise, only disadvantage that it is costly, and another disadvantage, it is in injectable form. But sooner or later the cost will be reduced. You will have that factor gone, and that is the major advantage of these two groups of drugs. This is what is being given in our Indian guidelines. At your leisure time you can go through, have a pause and you can go through. So it is always said that if you know glycemic threshold, that if you keep this particular first early period a very good glycemic control, you will reduce the legacy period. So always try to have a good control during this period. So there is a golden period in a diabetic in the first 3 to 5 years. So early diagnosis and aggressive therapy will reduce the complications. So it is called golden window of opportunity in first 3 to 5 years. And this becomes one of the drug for that particular opportunity. Now we know that diabetes and DPP-4 cannot be separated. So they work together. So they are together forever. You can see here they are together forever at any time. So best drug, yes. Why they are together? Because you can combine DPP-4, you can use as monotherapy, you can combine with insulin, you can combine with metformin, you can combine with even alpha glucosidase inhibitor and even pioglitazones, etc. And also there is a comparison between metformin and DPP-4 inhibitor. There are much more advantage of DPP-4 as compared to metformin. So that advantage can be taken when you combine metformin and DPP-4 inhibitors. So Some of the disadvantage of metformin can be covered by DPP-4, and some of the disadvantage of DPP-4 can be covered by metformin. So combination of metformin with DPP-4 inhibitor becomes one of the best combination and complementary mechanism of action. So DPP-4, metformin and pioglitazone also can be a good combination. DPP-4, metformin and insulin is also a good combination. DPP-4, metformin and AGI is also a good combination. These are the newer DPP-4 which are available, and semaglutide is one of the oral formulation as far as GLP-1 receptor agonist is concerned. So the part of injectable contraindication or injectable fear will be reduced, will go away. In near future, we might have some of the preparation which will be having more safety. So take home message, be conservative prescriber, be holistic prescriber, and be a critical and intelligent prescriber. And also be a economical and responsible prescriber. So concerning all this, still DPP-4 inhibitors becomes a good choice. Sooner when the cost factor of GLP-1 receptor agonist comes down, it will be a wonderful drug along with insulin in case of type 2 diabetes mellitus. So I end my lecture here. I thank you all for taking out time. I know your time is valuable and I appreciate you for spending some of the time with me. I know this molecule is very, very important. It is very, very useful in treatment of type 2 diabetes mellitus. I hope this lecture will be very helpful to you. If you feel this lecture is helpful to you, please press button like, and you can share with your friends. You can give the suggestions or comments so I can improve in my preparation. See you in next lecture.